Venezuela, once the jewel of Latin America, a nation floating on the world's largest oil reserves. Today, it's a cautionary tale, a symbol of economic collapse. We often hear about hyperinflation, sanctions, and shortages, but what really happened? How did a country with so much potential fall so far, so fast? The story is more complex than just one man or one policy. It's a story about choices, incentives, and the slow, grinding erosion of a nation's foundation. And at the heart of it all is a fundamental question. Why did the leaders, specifically Nicolas Maduro, make decisions that seemed destined to fail? Was it ignorance or something much deeper? To understand Venezuela's collapse, we have to go back to the system that was already in place when Maduro took power. Hugo Chavez had built a state heavily dependent on oil revenue, funding vast social programs and cementing a powerful coalition of political, military, and business elites. This system, known as Chavismo, worked as long as oil prices were high, but it was a house of cards. When oil prices crashed, the entire structure began to wobble. The government was spending far more than it was earning, and the easy money was gone. This is the critical moment when a country faces a choice: reform or double down. Reform means making painful, unpopular decisions. It means cutting spending, restructuring the economy, and likely upsetting the very people who keep you in power. Doubling down means printing money, imposing price controls, and finding short-term fixes to stay afloat, all while hoping for a miracle. Enter Nicolas Maduro. When he inherited this precarious situation, he wasn't facing a simple economic problem. He was facing a political one. The coalition that supported him, the military generals, the party loyalists, the well-connected business people all benefited from the existing system. They profited from currency controls, from state contracts, and from access to subsidized goods. Any meaningful reform would threaten their wealth and power. For instance, devaluing the currency to a realistic rate would have wiped out the fortunes of those who could get cheap dollars from the government and sell them on the black market for a massive profit. Cutting state spending would mean less money for the loyalists and the military, whose support was essential for his survival. Maduro understood this perfectly. He wasn't ignorant of basic economics. He was a master of political survival. His primary goal wasn't to fix the economy for the long term. His goal was to maintain power day by day. So, instead of making the hard choices, Maduro's government chose the path of least political resistance. The problems were clear. Inflation was rising and goods were disappearing from shelves. The government's response: blame an economic war waged by outside enemies and internal saboteurs. Their solution: more controls. They imposed even stricter price controls on everything from bread to toilet paper. The logic seems simple. If prices are too high, just order them to be lower. But the reality is that businesses can't sell products for less than they cost to produce. So they stopped producing. Bakeries couldn't afford flour, so they stopped baking bread. Factories couldn't import raw materials, so they shut down. The shelves became even emptier. To solve the shortage, the government started expropriating businesses, putting them under state control. But the state lacked the expertise and efficiency to run them. Production plummeted further. Each solution created a bigger problem. Then there was the money printing. To cover the massive budget deficit, the central bank just printed more and more bolivars. This is textbook economics. When you flood the market with money while the amount of goods and services is shrinking, the value of that money collapses. This is how you get hyperinflation. People would get their salaries and immediately rush to buy anything they could find, because by the next day, their money would be worth half as much. This destroyed savings, shattered businesses, and plunged millions into poverty. The government was essentially burning the country's economic future to pay its bills for today. Again, this wasn't a mystery. They knew what they were doing. But printing money was easier than cutting off the flow of cash to the military and other key supporters. It was a short-term political fix with devastating long-term consequences. One of the most tragic parts of this story is the destruction of Venezuela's state capacity. This is a crucial concept. State capacity is the government's ability to actually do things: collect taxes, enforce laws, provide basic services like healthcare and electricity, and manage complex industries. As the crisis deepened, the government's competence evaporated. The most talented and experienced people fled the country in a massive brain drain. Millions of doctors, engineers, and skilled workers left, seeking a future elsewhere. State institutions became hollowed out, filled with loyalists rather than experts. This is why the oil industry collapsed. PDVSA, the state oil company, was once one of the most advanced in the world, but it was purged of its professional staff and filled with political appointees. Mismanagement, corruption, and a lack of investment caused production to crash. The country's golden goose was slowly being starved to death. And here's the most chilling part. Once you lose that state capacity, it's almost impossible to get it back quickly. You can't just flip a switch and recreate a competent civil service or a functioning industrial sector. You can't just wish for the millions who left to return overnight. The damage becomes structural, permanent. Even if a new, reform-minded government were to take power tomorrow, they would inherit a wasteland. They would have no functioning institutions, a destroyed industrial base, a traumatized population, and a mountain of debt. The tools needed to rebuild the country have themselves been destroyed. This is the real tragedy of Maduro's choices. He didn't just make bad economic decisions. He oversaw the systematic dismantling of the country's ability to recover. So, what does Venezuela's story teach us? It's a powerful lesson about the politics of economic collapse. It shows that when a political system's survival depends on avoiding necessary reforms, disaster is inevitable. The incentives were all wrong. For Maduro and his inner circle, the cost of reform losing power was seen as far greater than the cost of collapse. They chose to sacrifice the nation's long-term future to secure their own short-term survival. They kicked the can down the road until there was no road left. It's a story of how short-term political logic can lead to permanent economic destruction. The system chose to procrastinate rather than fix itself, and the price of that delay was the country itself. It is a stark reminder that a government's most important job is not just to manage the present, but to preserve the future. When it fails at that, the consequences are irreversible. Thank you so much for watching. This is a complex topic, and there's so much more to discuss. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. We'll see you in the next one.
This is Shadow Financial History.